Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Promise Brand Podcast. If you are a founder, if you are a brand strategist, if you're a marketing leader, VP level leader, or anybody trying to better understand how to communicate your story, how to simplify and clarify and better amplify the story of your brand, this is the right podcast for you. I'm your host, Luke Frazier, founder of Parable Brand, where we are on a mission to simplify brand strategy so that you can increase client retention and employee engagement. Truthfully, if we were to kind of simplify what we do, we brand for culture. I wanted to start this episode out. This is a little different. We usually have had interviews, but this week we're doing a solo podcast talking about really the importance of brand strategy in today's growing market and really today's growing and changing culture. One of my favorite quotes I like to tell people when we're talking about brand strategy is this. It says, if you wait until you're everything to everybody instead of being one thing to somebody, you'll end up being nothing to nobody. As brands have evolved over time, as your company has evolved over time, you have probably acquired a lot of different skills, tactics, tools. Maybe even you have increased your clientele, you've increased your service offerings, you've increased your employees, and maybe you're at a great point of growth. But as culture has evolved, the way people engage and interact with products and services has evolved as well. And so people are no longer looking just for a simple solution. They're looking for full packages. They're looking to come to a place and engage with people, engage and have amazing customer service, and be involved in the product and service. They truthfully want to be invited into a story. They want you to invite them into your story, making them a part of the game. Because if we look at what brand really is, brand is simply your potential buyers or prospects or customers' gut reaction or feeling about your brand. It's what they say or believe or think about your company, your product or service when you leave the room. How do they feel about it? What are they saying to their friends about it? What are they engaging with about it in social settings and on social media? This is where we need to start to think about reinvigorating our brands. It's not just about what's on a billboard, it's about what people say about you. And look, I know this is maybe kind of crazy for some of us, or maybe something we're not even thinking about. Maybe we're a little bit more of an industrial brand, or we've put a lot of time and money and effort, resources into growing our sales teams or our product operations, and we've never really thought about brand. But look, the market is saturated today with businesses doing the same thing you are. Everyone is doing the same thing. There's new technologies. AI is starting to take over, and your brand could be falling behind. And I'm guessing if you're a value-driven professional, you don't want that. You don't want your brand to fall behind. And so how do we get to a place where we can properly differentiate ourselves? Because really that's what brand strategy does. Brand strategy is the bridge between a problem and a solution. The problem being, what is it that a potential buyer or customer is really struggling with? What is something, as culture evolves, as the environment evolves, as their team evolves, what is something they're really struggling with? How can we identify that? How can we break it down? What kind of problems are they dealing with? And our brand can step in and be the pathway, be the bridge to the potential solution for them. If you feel like you're stuck in this desert of confusion, or you are saying a lot of things, maybe you don't feel like you're stuck in the desert, but we'll put it this way. Your website says one thing about how you can support buyers. Your sales professionals are out there saying another thing, saying whatever they can to connect buyers to paying for your service or your product. Then your marketing says another thing, your email says another thing, your actual, when I use your product or service, it tells me a different thing about the brand. You've hired 10, 12, 30 new employees in the past year, and they're learning different things about how your brand interacts in the world. And now your buyer is confused. We call this the desert of confusion. People call it the sea of sameness. And we need to move people from this desert of confusion into their promised land, into the place where they've got the land is flowing with milk and honey. They have got a understanding that you as a brand can lead them into the place where their problem is no longer. That's really what we're trying to do here. On top of being profitable as businesses, on top of building a culture where employees thrive, we need to get our buyer from problem to solution. That's where the brand comes in, and the strategy behind your brand makes that process simple, easy, and effective for your buyer. And so what I wanted to leave you with today is that idea that you're the bridge from your buyer's problem to their potential solution. In fact, we could even flip it. If you're looking to build your culture, you as a brand, as an employer, are the bridge from your employee's problem. They have never had a good employer. They've had terrible bosses. They were told one thing in an interview and a job description, then they were kind of later on, they had to figure out how to do something else, or a boss told them to do something else. They're looking for a solution too. Is your company that solution? Is your brand that solution? Is your brand leading them, guiding them towards that solution? I'll take a step back because I just said this. I said your brand is the solution, and that's incorrect. Your brand is simply the bridge. It's the guide to the solution, because at the end of the day, your customer is a human. They're people with lives. They brush their teeth. They go poop. They have families. They drive their car. And they aren't going to be thinking about you at the end of the day unless you're guiding them to solutions in their life. That's where your brand really becomes effective in the long run. Which means you have to adapt with culture. It means you have to adapt with the growing stories that are out there. It means you have to speak personally to the people that you want to serve and are serving for you. And so here are a couple things you can do today that could elevate where your brand is at. I'm just going to give you 3 things that you can do that could take your brand from feeling like it's in the desert, or maybe being perceived like it's in the desert of confusion, and showing your teams, your customers, that you actually can lead people into the promised land. You have the map, you have the journey, you are the bridge from problem to solution. What you need to begin with is take a step back. Step 1. When you take a step back, your step 1 is to clearly write down an answer why your company exists. Include the spark. Maybe it's the founder story. Maybe it's the employer story. Maybe it's that pain point story that your value proposition comes in and swoops the client off their feet. Why do you really exist? I want you to start there. And I know for some that seems ethereal and not really tangible, but I want you to start there because that story is powerful. That's impactful. That's the purpose. That's the reason. It's the motivation. And today, in a world that is stirred by emotions and feelings, you need to cut through the noise. So why do you exist? Clearly write that down. Number 2 is from your new hires in HR to your marketing team to your sales, cross communications. I want you to look at everything, anything that could possibly communicate who you are, what you do, or talks about you to a customer or an employee. I want you to look at it all, and I want you on an Excel sheet to list the differences, note those out, and list the similarities. Where are we telling the same story across the board, and where could we improve? Maybe even in this process, you could actually call up a customer. You could sit an employee down and humbly say, we're attempting to do better as a brand, as a communication company, and get our message out there, and where are we missing the mark? Finally, I want you to think of your big, audacious goal as a brand, as an organization. Your Oprah handing out Pontiacs, your Harley Davidson being tattooed on bodies. What is your big audacious goal as a brand? Write that down and answer, as a brand, we've succeeded, fill in the blank. When have you succeeded? What does brand success look like for you? Is it getting into influencer marketing? Is it getting into TV? Is it getting into YouTube? Is it getting into a Netflix show? What does brand success look like for you? Once you have those three things, you begin to have more of a vision, a framework, a operating system, or at least the beginnings to an operating system for how you can make decisions with your brand moving forward, how you can make new hires, how you can make new decisions, new products, new ways to communicate to clients. Knowing your brand, knowing your strategy, and having your team back that up allows for a clear bridge to be seen from your client and your buyer's problem to their desired solution. Your brand has the ability to change the world, and I believe you can do that here today. Try these 3 easy steps. Write down why you exist. Audit your similarities and differences in your current communication and messaging, and then write your big audacious goal. Start there, and if you need help workshopping the rest or the in-betweens, or someone to come in and actually sit down and do a workshop for you, call us up. Just go to parablestory.com. You can go to our connect link right there, and we can set up a chat. But this is your next step to elevate your brand, getting people from the desert into the promised land, or the promised brand. Really grateful for you guys for following along, tuning in. Please reach out. You can email me, luke@parablestory.com. But I hope you have a wonderful week. Hope your brand really moves the needle today. And remember, become the chosen brand every single time.